Great. As always, this this webinar is always recorded for any grantees that are not able to attend. But I'm going to go ahead and start and share my screen. Let's see. Maybe let me do something real quick. Let me move you around first. Like I said, maneuvering these three screens, I moved my screen, can you see the screen? Okay, great. Okay, and so we're gonna go ahead and move and get going, and whoever comes in will come in. But like many of you started, please put down your name, your organization, and put it on the chat box function. Let's see, can you see the screen of? Are you seeing the webinar screen, the webinar slides? Okay, great. It's like not, usually there's like a green highlight over it, but it's not showing it for me right now. So I just wanted to make sure. Okay, great. Here's the agenda for today. Quick roll call. As usual, we're gonna do some check-ins with each other real quick. Last time I heard that many of you really did enjoy the fork and spoon and getting to connect with other grantees. And so we'll split and do that. And then we have Portland State University, any equity fund evaluation updates, doing a survey overview. And then I will give you some updates and quick reminders, and that'll be all for today. And then afterwards, if you want to connect with other grantees, there will be time at the end for you to connect with each other as well. And so just know that there will be that open space for you all. And so, like I already said, please put down your name and the organization you're from. Okay, we have 26 grantees. Our first year, there was 28, and then we're at 26 right now. Hoping in the future there will be more funding to expand. And so, but right now, very thankful and blessed to work with each and every one of you. So now we're going to move into the fork and spoon, checking in with each other. For the ones that weren't here last time when we did this, it's simply you being in a room with a couple of other individuals. I decided to put 3, so it could be a little bit more intimate. And state your name, your position. Some of you might not have connected with each other last time, and some of you might have, but it's a good reminder. And then the fork is, what's going on in your life that you'd like to fork out. For example, I need to fork out less rice for my diet, for my own mental health. I look at that. It could be professional or personal. What is something you want more spoonsful of? Like I have nephews and nieces that come every Friday, and I just want more time in my day to be with them. And so things like that. Or it could be spoonful at work. I want more teammates. I'm on a great team right now, and I love it, and I want more team meetings with them, and things like that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to break you into groups, and you have about 8 minutes to kind of share with each other how you're doing and how things are going. And so let me go ahead and do that. Please be patient while I do the breakout rooms right now. Okay, create. Let's do 8 minutes. All right. So hopefully you will be getting that invite to go into a room. Then I'll hear back from you in a little bit.
I'm back here.
Okay, let me.
No, don't put me anywhere.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Oh.
Let's see, everyone is in a room. Okay, great. I'm gonna mute.
Hey, Kimberly, are you gonna put Gabby in a room?
Yep, Gabby, I'm going to put you in a room, Gabby, so you can join in on so Gabby and Shauna, I'm gonna put you in a room. Let's see.
Thank you.
Yep, so you can connect with others. Oh, actually, there's 3 of you now. So let me see if I can. How do I go about doing this? Well, there you go, Shauna. I'm gonna assign you to room 10. 10. Muna, I'm gonna assign you to room 10. Gabriella, I'm gonna assign you to room 1. Shauna, I'm gonna assign you to room 2. Let's see. So it's room 6 that needs someone. Let's see. Hi, Kamisha. I'm going to add you into a group. Everyone's just kind of getting to know each other. So I'm going to put you into room 6. Okay. There's about 4 more minutes. Let's see. Share screen again. Okay, there you go. Now there's a highlight. Slowly coming back. All right. Everyone is slowly coming back. Does anyone want to share out to the group? Just kind of how things are coming along? I love it. I love seeing all the cameras on. This makes me so happy. Like I said, I feel like I haven't seen many of you in so long. It's so good seeing your faces. And, like without the masks too, like being working from home. Anybody courageous enough to kind of share out, their fork and spoon? No, I'm not forcing anyone to, but if anybody wants to. Oh, Danita. Okay.
Yeah, my spoon was just, I would like to see more culture specific early childhood community members
Mm,
find a passion to work in early childhood so that we can create a more diverse workforce in early childhood.
good point. And that's what I hear a lot about too. Before I came to the early learning division, I was a part of this Head Start fellowship at UCLA, and that was one of the main questions they had. It was a fellowship with directors that came from all over the state, and there was like one or two that represented each state, and I was representing Oregon, and I was like one of the only, I would say, Asian directors there, and they had said, how come, like we want to know why specifically, and BIPOC communities, how come we're not having that many, that are interested in, early childhood, early learning? And so that question is, I mean, everybody's, thinking about it and definitely looking at like workforce development for sure, especially
So I
with,
have a comment on that, Kimberly and Danita, was it Danita?
Mhm.
The problem I see is it's about language, because it's going to be very hard for me to find someone of a different ethnicity, race, whatever you want to call it, who's wanting to speak Spanish to our parents and kids, and vice versa for many other things. So when it comes to English speaking, I can say that there's absolutely a tremendous inequity in between Blacks and whites. But the other languages, it's much harder to get, like us, like a Latino who wants to teach in English instead of Spanish, for example. It all depends on the obviously the generation. But anyway, right now language is a big deal
Mhm.
here.
There's definitely many barriers in place. I mean, like we have to look at, education even, higher institution, workforce development. We need to look at language,
Oh yeah,
in like the
ton of inequities,
yeah, so many things that come together, but definitely there is a conversation that's going around about that. And so trying to figure out what we need to do to support communities,
And Levy just said the lack of opportunities for people of color to be hired as administrators and directors and managers is the other thing. And ultimately, I just want to say this, all of our children need to get to know and interact with and see people different than them also. Not only see themselves, but I often say to our staff that our children need to go to school, and in middle school or any grade level, they need to have a Black teacher, an Asian teacher, different teachers, because they need to get to know them, and they are different, and you can't only be in your comfort zone. So if all Latino kids only have Latino teachers, then they have a comfort zone and they don't get to know any other groups. You know what I mean? So it's a difficult issue, to manage, but it's so important, I think.
It's definitely many systems that needs to come together, and so definitely a bigger conversation than just, the simple small ones. Let's see, anyone else? Fork and spoon, one more volunteer before we move forward. Let's see. Okay, so I believe next is Portland State. Let's see, Portland State on the equity fund evaluation, if there's any update, if not, survey overview. I think I've given access to last co-host is Alexis. And so I believe all three of you have access to being able to share any slides or anything like that. And so.
Cool. Thanks, Kimberly. I am going to go ahead and share just a couple slides. So we just wanted to give a brief update on where we're at in the process and kind of an overview of where we're going so that we all know where we are in space and time, which I feel like is increasingly hard for me these days, just tracking time. So this is a good reminder for our whole team as well. So January and March, the Evaluation Leadership Group and PSU have been and will continue to work on identifying the research questions that are guiding the overall evaluation. And so basically what we're talking about is what we need to demonstrate. And this is really in responding to the required outcomes that were determined by legislation. And then looking beyond that to thinking about what else do we want to learn? What else do we want to be able to tell the field of early childhood education about what you all are doing and the importance of culturally specific services? So that's kind of the big picture work that we're doing right now. In April, then we're going to turn our attention to identifying data collection tools and thinking about the timing of the actual data collection for the upcoming year of evaluation. In May, we hope to then finalize a plan. So the plan will be what tools we're going to use and the sort of the timeline for data collection and analysis, and our final research questions that guide all of that. When we have this plan put together, the next step is actually to bring it back in front of this whole group of grantees to get your review and feedback as well. And in fact, I was thinking this morning that this webinar might be another good opportunity for us to bring the plan forward and have some discussion and be able to provide that feedback in real time. I know a lot of times we sort of send drafts out by email and it can be kind of overwhelming and hard to find the time to go through and provide that feedback. So hopefully we can make that happen as well in June. So partly to support the identification of data collection tools that we might be able to use in this next year of evaluation, we sent out that survey that you may have seen. I think maybe it was emailed out last week or the week before. And the idea here is that in figuring out which tools we might be able to use, it's just going to be really helpful to understand what you all are already using. Because wherever possible, we would like to be able to just kind of build on what you're already doing instead of coming up with a bunch of new tools and potentially a lot of new work for you. Also, we're considering the fact that there may be tools that many of you share in common, data collection tools that you're already using, but also you may be using a variety of different tools. And just wanting to be clear that there isn't a requirement in this evaluation that everybody use exactly the same tool. It's something that we're just trying to figure out. If there could be situations where that might work, that could be helpful, but also we can flex and work around that. So we're trying to get really creative about this, and the survey would be really helpful just in understanding where we're starting out and what might be possible. So what we thought is that it could be helpful to use some of the time today to actually take a look at that survey together answer any questions that anybody might have about the particular questions, what we're trying to get at, what the questions mean. And then Kimberly, I don't know if there's time in the agenda, but if there was, people could actually start to fill it out right now. And then the PSU team would be on hand to answer any questions as they actually came up. Also acknowledging that you might be able to complete it on your own, but I also know that you might need to consult with other people in your organization. Just because you're here in this meeting doesn't necessarily mean that like you're the person who knows exactly what's happening with data in your organization. So there's certainly no requirement to finish it today. We just thought it might be helpful to kind of kick it off and get it started this way, if that makes sense. So before we do that, I just wonder if there are any questions. It doesn't look like it. I wouldn't be surprised if some questions come up as we're going through the survey. So please just feel free to jump in at any time. And Kimberly, I can't remember if we had talked to you about this or not, but we had the thought that it might be helpful to have a breakout room for folks who wanted to go through the survey in Spanish, because we do have a Spanish language version.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned it to me.
So Alexis is happy to do that, to go into a breakout room and go through the whole thing in Spanish for anyone who's interested. And I'm feeling like I don't understand the mechanics of how that works, but if you wanted to make that happen, now might be a good time.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a breakout session right now where participants can choose to go into Alexa's room. So recreate. I have to give me 10 more seconds. So if you want to look through the survey, okay, then you can choose to opt into the room. It would be Alexis overseeing it, and he would be going through it in Spanish. And so, did you all see it? Did it pop up on your screen if you want to attend? Okay.
Kimberly, is that set for only 8 minutes?
Yeah, let me close it real quick and reset it. Sorry about that. Let me do that again. Let's see. Right now, every single time you start, you create. Let's see. Breakout rooms. Recreate. Participants. How long were you thinking? I believe PSC, how much time would you want it to be?
Maybe 10 minutes? I don't know. Amber, Alexis, what do you think?
Yeah, 15 minutes. How about 15?
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thanks for making a decision. I love that.
Okay, so let's see. See if you got access, if it sent you. Okay, great. Then we'll just wait and wait for a few minutes to see if anybody goes through, and not, then we're good.
Awesome.
So just in case people haven't encountered this before, if you want to join the breakout group, on the taskbar at the bottom, there's a little 4-panel grid that says Breakout Rooms. And you can open that by clicking on it, and then there's a little blue shape that says Join, and that will get you into Alexis's group.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
I'm sorry, just to clarify that Alexis's room is for Spanish speakers.
Correct.
Okay, great.
It only says one room, so, okay. Only Spanish speakers, okay. Otherwise I stay here.
All right. What do you think, Kimberly? Should I go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead. There's many that have shifted over, and so I love it.
Perfect.
Which is great.
Very cool. Okay, so I'll share my screen again. Can everybody see this? It's the landing page for the survey. Okay, awesome. So this is what you'll see when you open it up, and you've got two options here to complete the survey in English or Spanish. So I will click English. Takes you to a bunch of words, a whole bunch of preamble, which basically says what I just said about the purpose of the survey. Then we ask you to put in your name, and I'm just going to fill in X's here, your organization, email, phone, and the best way to contact you. And the reason that we're asking here is so that we can both so that we can track who's using what tools, but also if we want to reach out to you or follow up for clarification on any answers, we'll have the best contact information for you to do so. So the first set of questions is about child level outcomes. So we're asking here, and you'll see there's a whole bunch of different categories. Which of the following kinds of data related to child outcomes does your program regularly collect? Right, and this is the idea of outcomes as the expected impacts of your program. So the goals that you're hoping to achieve. And this is any type of data collection that you are currently doing. So for example, you might be using some kind of a tool to get at general child developmental status, like the ASQ or the TS Gold. And so then your choices would be, yes, we're using it, no, we're using it, or I'm not sure, because that might be the case as well. Child social emotional development. So for example, the ASQ SE, early English literacy skills, language development, and early literacy skills in languages other than English. And then you'll see the next item that we have is specific to Native American, American Indian language development, whether or not that applies to your program, early numeracy, and then child health information, things like immunization status, height, weight, hearing, vision, screening, etc. Whether or not a child then gets access to any type of treatment, services, supports. So this is kind of like the follow-up on referrals. And then if you're doing any kind of data collection around the child connection to culture and community. And so that's written really vaguely for a reason. We wanted to cast a really wide net. We have a feeling that we've heard from a lot of you that these are in fact outcomes that you're tracking, but this is all like brand new trailblazing work that you're doing. So we wouldn't know what the tool would be. One of the things we're really very interested, right, in finding out from you all. And then any other measures of what you might be calling school readiness, again, with the idea that school readiness could mean a lot of different things. So looking beyond kind of the mainstream dominant, like, you know, reading, writing, and arithmetic sort of definition there. Then we also wanted to include an open-ended question. So we kind of tried to brainstorm this initial list of ideas, but what else, right? There's probably plenty of things that we didn't think of. So providing a box here for you to write in any other kinds of child outcome data that you're collecting, or just simply say, you know, none, no, nothing else. Also wondering about standardized tools in particular, And so, you know, standardized tools are the ones typically that you pay for. They have a license, they're published. And so some programs may be using those kinds of tools as a matter of course, while others may not. So we're just trying to get a sense of who's using what without making any kind of value judgment about a standardized tool being better, which I think is sometimes the assumption, but it's not one that PSU is bringing to this example. Also wondering if you are using, in addition to any standardized tools, or maybe instead of, a survey, a questionnaire, or any other way of gathering information that your program has developed just specific for your program. And then the next question is asking in particular about some other ways of collecting information that you might be using, like observations, just conversations with family, portfolios, if there's any video documentation or photo documentation. Again, with this idea that we're really trying to look at all sorts of different kinds of data that we might not sort of typically include in a mainstream dominant evaluation. And then question number 6 is asking basically for your own schedule or timeline for data collection. And this may be something that's like part of the routine in your organization, or it may be something that you do kind of more on an occasional basis. And so both of those are fine. It's just trying again to learn more information about what's currently happening. So as we think about designing the evaluation moving forward, we can take into account sort of where everybody is now and how much support or facilitation any additional data collection might require. And then last but not least, asking about satisfaction data or feedback data that you might be collecting from parents, families, community, etc. And then if yes, how are you collecting that data? So let me just pause here. I've said a whole big bunch of things and see if there are any questions so far, if this is making sense. And I can only see a handful of people. So if you do want to ask a question, it would be great if you could just unmute.
I have one question.
Sure.
Up there when you were talking about standardized evaluations, I'm thinking of them as somewhere like professional, used among multiple organizations. I'm just curious what the definition of standardized is. We use something that was originally developed by OSU and Western States, I think, for the Early Learning Division or the Early Learning Council 7 years ago. Is that a standardized evaluation? It wasn't nationally created, it was Oregon created.
I don't know off the top of my head. I probably would need to see the instrument. I mean, typically it means that it has, for lack of a better word, the tool has been tested in a sort of experimental settings. For lack of a better word, it's like the mathematical characteristics of the tool have been investigated. And there's
supposedly,
right. And typically there's been some type of research published around it. So
that would be, you know, the early learning hubs all require it to be used. The state requires it to be used for the parenting. It did anyway. But see, we haven't had regular early learning grants, only this equity fund. So, you know what I mean? So this equity fund has not required lots of things that I've never had a grant from the regular fund, preschool promise and different things. But I know that the state funds the early learning hubs. You know what? I am wrong though. It is OPEC that foundations that fund the parenting part, and the parenting ladder was developed for the Foundations for Better Oregon and OPEC, Oregon parent education collaborative.
Mhm. You know what I would
So
say,
that might
Annalie?
not be as standardized and research-based as I
Yeah.
might think. It's just that they require those test results for every parenting class that we receive a grant for.
You know what I would say? Just put down any and all tools that
Mhm.
you're using and don't worry about trying to figure out if they're standardized or not, because
Okay.
that's something that PSU can kind of go through and try to determine from our end.
Okay.
Yeah, I would hate for you all to try and like spend a lot of time scratching your head, like, is this a standardized or is it not? It
Okay,
doesn't
thank
really
you.
matter, you know what I'm saying? But thank you for that
Thank you.
question.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
Kamisha, I think you raised your hand.
Yeah, I was curious. I think what I'm most curious about this survey and is like kind of what comes from it, like what will come after, so that it kind of helps me. We're kind of in a place of, because we've had staff transition, reestablishing and reevaluate all the data that we have, and I'm getting more oriented to our system. So I'm just like, okay, if I say yes and then I can't find it, what's that going to be like? Or if I say not sure right now, but I will, like just kind of what comes from our answers, so that I can be prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, really appreciate that. Thank you. This is 100% purely for the purposes of gathering the information and understanding what folks are doing. It's not to hold anybody to any promises or commitments. It's really just, we don't know. We like, and even just having that understanding of what folks are currently doing, I actually think would be a good, a significant contribution. And we're really hoping to use it, right, in the context of designing the evaluation to have a better idea of what might be feasible. What might we actually be able to pull off in this first year's evaluation, both in terms of potentially having shared tools that folks use, or maybe there are groups of organizations that are using the same tool, and they could be kind of clumped together. So it's just starting to think about that. That's really the purpose of it. Does that help?
Yeah, definitely. I really appreciate that. I've just learned a lot from the whole process that and how you all are doing this. And I think it's really great that you're assessing for what data is already there, so that I don't know, I may be speaking from uninformed place, but I know often sometimes like, okay, here's what we want to know, like collect all this data right now versus like assessing what we already have. So that's just yeah, really great, and helps me to feel not like, oh, if I give the wrong answer and I don't know if we do or not, like, because it's something I'm evaluating right now for our program. So yeah. Thank you.
That makes so much sense. And also, just as a reminder for everybody, part of the equity fund is supposed to be around capacity building, right? So I think this is part of capacity building, is just initially figuring out where we're all at. So maybe I'll go on to the next page, and just so you all feel okay about this, there's only one more page. Don't be too scared. So the next page is family outcomes, right? And this is basically the same idea, except asking about data related to family outcomes that your program might already be collecting. So we have a number of dimensions here again that we kind of brainstormed. So family strengths, or some folks might be using like the protective factors inventory. Parenting knowledge. This could mean a whole bunch of different things. So again, like encouraging you to really cast a wide net. Oh, Kimberly, it looks like we're closing the breakout.
It hit the mark and it automatically closes. And so, yeah, so that's what happened.
I won't worry about it. Parenting confidence. Parent-child interaction quality. And you may be familiar with some quote unquote standardized measures around that. Parent caregiver mental health. Parent caregiver access to treatment services, supports. Family positive relationships. Social support, connection to community, etc. And then something that we're calling here family negative relationships. I don't really feel like I'm sure what language should be used here. This is kind of what we came up with as a working phrase. Measures of family economic well-being. Parent caregiver physical health or health related. And this dimension around parent caregiver racial, cultural, linguistic pride and identity. Likewise, connection to culture and community. And then parent caregiver English language skills. So again, this was just our initial brainstorming, right? About things that you might be collecting currently. So then it's same question, like what other kinds of family outcome data are you collecting that we didn't think of? Same question around standardized tools. But again, like really don't spend a lot of time trying to figure out if it's standardized or not. You can just throw it all in. Any tools that you've developed for your own program. And any other ways of documenting and tracking family outcomes that aren't just like, you know, pen and paper assessments. And then again, asking about how often you collect this data, what's the timeline or schedule for it? And then do you collect program satisfaction data or feedback on services? And if so, how do you do that? And that is the whole survey. So let me stop sharing this. And just ask again if there are any other questions. I guess I'm also wondering if this seems like something you all feel like you could begin to fill out today, or if it's something that you need to take back to your organization and maybe work with other folks on completing.
I would need to take it back to my organization to complete it. I would have answers to some of the questions, and a lot of them I wouldn't know necessarily what data they're collecting.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I know the data that they're collecting for grants because I've asked them to collect it, but I don't know the other data. So I'd have to check in with the program managers on that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Lorelai,
Yes.
I just had a question regarding if grantees should focus on their ECEF funded projects and the data that's collected for those projects versus the multiple projects that some organizations might be running.
That's a really good question. And I think a great way of narrowing down. I mean, really what we're talking about here is anything that you think is relevant to the particular programs that are being funded by Ecef. I feel like maybe somebody else had been starting to talk.
I have a question. And sorry, I've just kind of been on my headphone because we're helping run programs today. But triple tasking.
That's right.
Just quick question. Will we have, let's say there's a question on there that maybe doesn't pertain directly to the services we're providing, or will there be space to like say maybe not yet, like maybe this is something we're working on right now, or will there be space to state maybe we're not doing this specific thing? I can't think of an example. We're not doing this, or we're doing something different that might cover what you're asking for, or even just feedback, like maybe there were questions that are not asked in the survey that we'd like to include.
Yes,
happening.
Totally, really appreciate that question. You can, I think for all of the ones where the option is yes, no, or don't know, you can put no, but then down below in the open-ended questions, You can write in as much as you want there in terms of explanation. Or, I mean, if that, you know, I don't know that everybody wants to sit around and write in paragraphs of information, you could just reach out to the evaluation team. I mean, we are more than happy to just have a conversation with you and even to walk through it with you kind of one-on-one. So if that would make it easier, totally happy to do that as well. So we could get that fuller context, you know? That's always the limitation of a survey. It can be kind of a quick and efficient way to get information, but sometimes it just doesn't allow for the information that you're really wanting to share.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know, I'm trying to get a sense, and anybody jump in here if you have an idea of whether or not we should kind of hold time during this meeting for folks to start the survey, or if that doesn't make sense now that you've had a preview of it.
I say if we don't have a lot of other subjects to discuss, every minute counts for me. I'd just as soon start it. Those who need to go back to their organization can also go back and ask, but could get started and use that time for that now. That's up to you guys though, if you have any other issues that you wanted to bring up before we technically go on our own.
I was gonna say, maybe like I just do my quick updates.
Yeah.
Real quick, and then whatever time is left, whoever wants to stay can stay, and whoever needs to go back to their team can go back to their team. So we're not, you know, taking time for others.
Right.
Okay.
Sounds
perfect.
Okay, let's do that. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen.
Kim, I have a question.
Yeah.
So is there a way to go back to the previous page of the survey?
That is something that I can add. Yeah, I can't remember now if I included that option or not, but I can go back and do that if you need to, yeah, go back.
Yes, thank you.
Go back button is very important.
Any other questions? Okay, can you see my screen? I'm just really missing that green highlight. It's like bothering me. I want to make sure I have the right screen. But the COVID-19 antigen rapid test kits. I sent an email out yesterday. It was a letter from ELD, OHA combined. You know, what had happened was we received, OHA gave us these test kits and asked, Kimberly, do you think the Equity Fund grantees need access? I'm like, oh yeah, give me some. Like, my grantees need some. And, you know, I've been hearing them during check-ins. You know, some have said, we haven't asked, families haven't said, and some that have said, Kimberly, if you have access to any, please send them our way. So fortunately this came, and just want to let you know that we had to give them a certain amount of numbers, you know, like how many children's in slots. Well, the Equity Fund is not like Preschool Promise or OPK Head Start that has slot. You know, one slot is one child. We don't do that with the Equity Fund. We're unique, we're different. So the number I gave them was the number on your continuation application that you projected you would be serving. And so what happened is we gave that number to OHA. They have their own formula of how they're giving out the kits. At first, we thought it was one kit per child or per family, but it ended up being multiple kits per child and family, which is great because we know there's not just one child in a family that needs it. We all work with communities that have multiple children or have aunts and uncles and grandmas and grandpas, multi-generational, living in the same household. And so they have a formula in which they were able to divvy up the kits. And so you all have been given a certain amount, been allotted a certain amount. Let me share my screen of the website, the link to the, why is this doing this? Let's see. let's see, can you, yes, I see the green highlight now. Can you see the, and no, I don't see you all. And so this is the link in which it takes you to, and it allows you to see how many kits you can receive up to. And so for the equity fund, if you are an equity fund grantee and a preschool promise grantee, like for example, if you are Education Explorer, okay, you would be Education Explorer right here, okay, and then for preschool promise, you would be, preschool promise, whatever number you are here. So you have two different allotments, okay? And so as you can see, it's from, if you have any issues looking at this, let me know and I'll give you what your certain allotment number is. Like for example, Alante Mujeres is getting 3870. We have Better Together 4680. And this is all based on the equity fund. And this is public for everyone to see that is receiving it for equity fund. These are the numbers in which I submitted to them, and they added a couple of staff in whichever formula they have. So just a heads up, these kits are for children and families that's funded through the equity fund and equity fund staff. So if you have a home visitor staff, if you have a program manager staff that needs a kit, that's asking for a kit, they can receive it, okay? And so so the odd numbers might be the staff that they added. And now we keep going down. There's Cairo right here. And so this is open for everyone. Mano a mano right here. Metropolitan Family Service, Micronesian Islander. It's all right here. So you have access to knowing how many test kits you will receive, okay? And so that link is provided in the email. And so click on the link in the email, the letter, and then you will have access to it.
Why won't they allow you to use the kits for parents?
Well, for parents too. It's not just children.
Oh, it said children. So I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
No, it's for anybody in the family.
It's in the family, yeah.
It's anybody in the family. It could be grandma, grandpa, uncle, auntie. It could and it's and staff as well.
Okay, good. Yeah.
But here's the big piece of it. It's not you got 3,000, you could just divvy it up. It's not that. It's if they're asking for it, or you say, hey, if any of you need any kits, we have kits.
Oh yeah.
So just know that's not a one-time
process of asking. Yeah.
Well, the process of asking is them asking, or you letting them know, hey, if your family's needing it, we have access to it. We'll give it to you.
Right.
And like what the letter states, it's not, you can't get, it's in pallets, and then you can't get all the kits at once. And so just know that you have to order as they come in, okay? Because obviously right now everybody is jumping on it, and we can't give everybody's orders out to them. And what happens is OHA will be sending it to you. And so that is the best piece about it, is that you don't have to go pick it up, and no one can go pick up pallets, and so there's that. So just know that access is there. There's no data that's going to be asked about it. We don't want to know the results. We don't know, we don't need to know who you gave it to. These are for the families, the children's, whoever needs it right now, okay? And so just know you are allotted a certain amount, and you can request up to that amount, right? And so there's
the letter that you sent out, the OHA link to see how much you get. Is
it not working on your end? Well, then let me know. Shoot me a message, and I'll let you know how much your allotted amount is. That's what happened with one other grantee yesterday, and then another one had access to. And so there's a glitch. I think everybody's accessing it, and so not entirely sure what's going on. But I could do that, or I could just send out a list to all of you and let you know what your amount is, and I can help do that as well. Okay. So there's that. And then one last update is, besides the regular reminders, let me, when you have multiple screens, I swear I'm a lot savvier than this, The next one is the Oregon Rural Infant Mental Health Project. You know what? I'm just going to show you the website. the website would be a lot more clear than what I'm about to tell you. This screen will show you of an amazing, exciting opportunity that's coming up specifically for rural Oregon. This is a cohort that will start summer of 2022 to 2023, and it's to help. We all know that everyone needs access to mental health consultants, especially in the rural areas of Oregon. You know, I know that when I was in Head Start, you know, the Head Start directors there had to share one mental health consultant between multiple counties, as compared to, you know, when I was at the Head Start I was at in Portland, where we had like access to 5 for our program. And so we know that it's a huge issue in rural Oregon. And so this is an amazing cohort opportunity for anyone that would like to be a part of the cohort. This is, you know, 2 or 4 individuals from one of the following. So I don't know if it's just what would happen if it's just one individual, but I will put this in the chat box function. I will also send this out to you, but there's an information session that's going to take place on March 22nd. And I would definitely attend that. There you go. Let's see. Oops. I would definitely attend that session if you are interested. You know, you are in it from summer 2022 to 2023. You know, it's 30 hours of the endorsement, you know, qualified for mental health endorsement. And then it's also, it's supervision, it's reflective supervision, there's scholarships. And so this is a great opportunity that's out there for anyone. This is an area in which we're really trying to work hard with and trying to find ways in which we can navigate and having more culturally appropriate mental health consultants. We have many that have said, Kimberly, the mental health consultant that came and worked for my agency was not culturally appropriate. What they had asked for my parents to do is just not culturally appropriate. Our parents can't just leave their families, and work on themselves, because culturally in our community, we're all about family, and things like that. And so there's just ways in which, a way in which we can have more culturally appropriate consultants, and a way in which, it really helps in getting the certificate and having them have the documentations to become a mental health consultant. And so this is a really, unique and exciting opportunity. I would definitely take a look at it. For Family Foundation is overseeing it, and obviously with PSU. Here's the information here. So please contact this information, the individual on here. I only know the basics of this information. I don't know much about it, so I don't have any concrete. I don't know the logistics. I know the basics. And so, but this is a great opportunity that they are asking us to share. And I thought it would be great. I know there's some grantees that I've connected with where we've talked about the need for mental health consultants in your agencies. And so what a great opportunity to have staff attend, and be a part of it. And so, but yeah, so that is all on that. And that is all the updates that I have for today. If you're interested, the link is in the chat box. I'll also send it in the email. I'll also send the PowerPoints and the monthly reminders of just know that, reports are due coming up. Okay. And for the ones that I have check-ins coming up, Dr. Jenny Mendoza is attending some of those with us. And so she's met some of you and she's excited to meet a couple more of you. And so thank you for having welcomed her into the meetings and just being very open with her as well. And so I think that's all I have for updates. And so for anyone that wants to stay, and if you have any questions on the survey, or if you need any TA, this would be the opportunity for you to do that. Okay. And so other than that, thank you everyone for attending. I see that we're at 12:02. And so just know that we do have some time left if anybody wants help with the survey, or if you want to stay and connect. I will make breakout rooms for that if you want to do either or. Okay. And I'm going to stop recording now, and then these next sessions would be to help with anyone.
Thank you all. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.